Good morning.
Well, welcome. We are really thrilled to see all of you. This is going to be the 5th annual Positive Business Conference. My name is Amy Young. I'm a faculty here. I teach business communication.
And good morning. My name is Stuart Thornhill, faculty in entrepreneurial studies and director of the Zeller Institute for Entrepreneurial Studies. And it is our incredible privilege and pleasure to welcome you all here today. As Amy mentioned, this is the 5th Positive Business Conference, our largest to date. So first of all, a round of applause to all of you for making this our best and biggest conference ever. Welcome. We have representation here from 21 states, 10 countries, big groups from a couple of organizations, DTE Energy, Eversight, NSF International, and University of Michigan Facilities and Operations. We have participants from China, the Czech Republic, Australia, Egypt, Iceland, New Zealand, South Korea, the UK, and in addition to myself, who snuck across the border from Canada, we have a group of Canadians here as well. Thankfully, they let me stay so far. Industries represented include energy, healthcare, financial services, the nonprofit sector. We have education, government, manufacturing, retail, technology, consulting, and more. So an incredibly diverse group. I hope you all look forward to making connections across your various sectors, industries, and companies, and making the most out of the next couple of days. Our goal is really extending the mission of the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business, which is developing leaders who make a positive difference in the world. Clearly by your attendance here, you already subscribe to that, and it's wonderful to have you taking that journey with us. Over the course of the next couple of days, we're going to be digging into a deeper theme, which is right from the start. So as organizations begin, the foundations for culture is set, and as organizations grow, that culture evolves, and it's an opportunity to make sure it stays positive throughout the growth cycle. We would like you to walk away with skills and knowledge, some new frameworks, some models, ways of thinking about the world, and really the confidence to go back to your organizations, apply the tools you've learned, and bring more of a positive culture into your organization. So it's a high bar we set, and we think you are all up to the task for it. You're going to learn strategies, models from business leaders across various sectors, and also from the faculty here at the Ross School of Business. We have the largest group and the most decorated in terms of publications, authorships, and thought leadership on the topic of business here at the school. You'll hear from many of them, some on the main stage, and others in the breakout sessions that you'll be attending over the course of the next couple of days. So a full agenda, lots of learning, and I welcome you to that opportunity. In terms of how the sessions will proceed over the next couple of days, you're going to be hearing from leaders out of Sustainable Brands, 7th Generation, Porch, and McKinsey Associates will be sharing their stories and learnings over the course of the morning. We'll hear from a couple of local entrepreneurs who will share their experiences in starting, building, and growing their organizations, and also a panel discussion about how mission, culture, the values of a company team and the values of the company founders affect the value of a business from an investor's perspective. So a wide range of views, entrepreneurs, investors, business leaders from across a variety of sectors. And then, of course, this afternoon, after lunch, you'll have an opportunity to participate in the breakout sessions, and on your badges, the 2 sessions that you've been scheduled into are identified. So please follow those. That'll make sure you get to the right rooms and into the sessions that you wanted to see. On day 2, do we talk about day 2 yet? Day 2 itinerary, very similar. We'll continue our journey, big ideas, catalyzing change in your organization, and taking that mindset of positive business to generate extraordinary results. So with that in mind, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Okay. I get to tell you about a couple things going on that are really exciting. The first has to do with sugar cubes. So you probably noticed out there in the winter garden, there are envelopes, and everyone here has an envelope. Now, the envelope, let me tell you about the purpose. If you want to send a message to someone, you can pick up a scrap of paper, send them a message. However, these sugar cubes are really powerful, and here's how they are powerful. I teach a course on positive business communication, and the first day of class, everyone comes in and they tell me they really want to make a difference. And they're much like all of you. Everyone wants to feel like they have an impact on the world. And today, it is really hard. It's a complex world, so much is changing, and it feels overwhelming. It's hard for us to feel like we have any positive influence. And what I tell them is that you don't have to wait till you're a leader in a company. You're going to learn how to have a positive difference today. And I tell them each and every word you share in a conversation, you have the potential to impact that person. We often impact each other in our conversations, in what we share with people. We just don't know it. We don't know the impact we have on people because we don't tell others when we have an impact. Use these cards to let people know that something that they said really resonated with you. Something, a story that they shared that really had a positive impact on you. It was information you could use, it just moved you. Let people know. Jane once shared with me a compliment that is not shared with a person is like wrapping a gift and not giving it. Letting someone know that they have impact is the best gift you can give them. Use the sugar cubes, okay? All right. Magnify students, they are all around us. If you are here, Magnify student, let me hear you. Woo! All right, nice job. Okay, these are amazing students. You have the opportunity to interact with them. I have never taught such a great group of students. They really are special. They are bright, intelligent, and they really care. Take the time to talk to them. Also, you have the opportunity to learn about a lot of things that are going on at Ross. Out here, we have the institutes and centers represented, executive ed. Hey, they're great institutes, centers. Find out about them while you're here. Also, conference bookstore right out here. You can pick up some of the books. You like what you hear. Hey, maybe you can pick up a book and learn more about the topic. Also, we have a graphic recorder right here. Okay, she is going to be drawing, visualizing all of our experiences, and then we're going to be posting it up in the Winter Garden. So, it's great to look at as it gets towards the end of the conference. You'll be able to recall all the wonderful things that have happened. Finally, if you want to share an experience with everyone, MGoLive, okay? Hashtag MGoLive, use it. And then, I also would like to share with you a high-quality connection. We're going to start right from the beginning with making a high-quality connection. And this is what you do. Everyone, stand up. Shake a leg. Get some energy going. Find a partner. Ideally, someone you don't know. Hold on. This is what you...
I think I got it. Go live.
I did?
I'm going to find anybody second to you guys.
Oh.
Hi.
I'm Beth Farrell.
Nice to meet you.
In LSA Advancement and went
Stuart,
through the
Koann.
week-long course.
Oh.
And been in awe, literally, of what you all do and how you change lives every day. So
Nice.
it is, I'm having a physical, emotional reaction already to
Yeah.
listening to you.
That's
So
great.
thank you for what you do with
Sure.
our students especially.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thanks for sharing that.
I'll let you get back to work.
We'll figure out how to corral this in.
Sorry, so what do you think I need to correct it?
I don't know. It was on the screen as MGo positive. So you just leave it. But either way, they'll figure it out. We'll have it on the screen again.
Yeah.
How long should we give them?
What's that?
How long should we give them?
Well, if we want to get them back.
Okay, and I just pick it up from here, introduce Koann, and then we go? Okay. All right. Holy cow. We had no idea how much energy we were going to release with that small command. I'm actually a little startled you stopped. That was going. Well, congratulations again to all of you. And now that we've had a chance to settle in, get a look ahead at what's going to transpire over the course of the next 2 days, it is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker. She is the CEO of Sustainable Brands. Her topic, how positive impact can lead to positive profit. It's my great pleasure to introduce their CEO, Koann, Vikoren, Skrzyniarz. Welcome and thank you for being here so much.
And we are, I'm always inspired by how welcome that I feel here in the state. So Terry and team, thank you very much for inviting us to be here. There's a clicker. I just want to start by saying you guys are a reflection of something that's happening in the world right now that is really exciting and gives us hope. I think sometimes we don't recognize, because the media often wants us to pay attention to things that are more negative and that there's a lot of really good things happening in the world, and you guys are all a reflection of that. So be proud of that, and hope you come away feeling hopeful from the end of the day. So I am going to take just a few minutes to give you a little context from our perspective. How many of you know Sustainable Brands? Or know of us? Okay, that's an unusually small group. So I have to say. So if you're interested at the end of the day, you might want to go to sustainablebrands.com and subscribe to our newsletters. They're free, and it'll give you a sense of kind of where you are in the context of a broad movement that's going on around the world. So this morning I just will start by acknowledging that this notion of purpose is really nothing new. In 1995, many of you, probably maybe not all of you in 1995, read Jim Collins' book, but how many of you have read Jim Collins' book? Okay, more so. So, this is decades old. Jim pointed out that these companies that are succeeding partly because they have purpose beyond profit at their core. Same year, his book was written in 1995, the same year, RSA in the UK, the Royal Society of Arts, Manufacturers and Commerce, which is also a great resource if you don't pay attention to it, did another study of companies that had the greatest longevity in the UK, and they found similarly that the companies that had longevity and of success were, again, those companies that put purpose at the core of their business. If any of you have spent any time studying Japanese business or being in Japan, you will recognize that Japan is a hotbed of companies that have lasted long time. 20,000 companies over 100 years old, 5 that are over 1,000 years old. How staggering is that to even think about? I can't comprehend. But again, the studies of those companies that lasted for a long time turned up the same thing, that leadership that is driven by higher purpose and innovation, combined with innovation, that put people first, that are frugal and efficient with natural resources are the ones that manage to last through decades and centuries even. But the thing that's new and changing today is the context. And I think, how many of you have any exposure to the sustainability space? Okay, so that's interesting. I was told maybe the sustainability concept might be somewhat new to you, but actually maybe not. Excuse me. The reality is that we all are recognizing that there are mounting environmental and social issues and pressures that we're facing worldwide. I don't know if you saw the news this week, but I think this week it was reported that we have now exceeded, despite all the great work that's going on to reduce CO2 around the world, we've now exceeded 410 parts per million CO2 in the atmosphere, and that is higher than ever recorded in recorded history over the last 800,000 years. So despite the fact that we're trying hard and we're all rallying around the right direction, we're still heading the wrong direction. 400 billion people now connected to the internet means that society is increasingly aware of what's going on around us. And the fact is that awareness is creating, unfortunately, a bit of distrust out there in the world, in our institutions. And I was present last month at Edelman's launch of this year's Trust Barometer. If you have seen, Edelman delivers a trust research report every year. And unfortunately, what they reported this year is that there is a massive trust crash. 23% decline in trust in organizations from government, NGO, and business across the board by those people who are considered to be informed public. That's discouraging. 30% of those people registered a decline in trust in government, but 20% also registered a decline in their trust in business. And the thing also to just reflect on is that Brand USA is also going down the tubes in the last year. Confidence in business in the US has declined by 10%. And this is a global study, so this is not just research of people's perspectives here in the US. And the other thing that's happening, and I think you'll see the students here will validate this, it's certainly true, we see this everywhere, which is that employees are wanting to go to work for companies with purpose. Koann does a study every year on this topic, and this year registered the fact that 75% of millennials, who will make up the largest share of the workforce by 2025, would take a pay cut to work for a company that had purpose at their core. 64% of them actually won't even take a job with a company that doesn't have a strong corporate social responsibility commitment or purpose. So this is something that's no longer a sort of intellectual or academic issue. It's something that is becoming core to business. And I was at a summit 2 weeks ago that was put on by a group from Harvard and London School of Business, friends of ours that we support and advise, that looked at the 34 of the top global CEOs and polled them for what is top of mind for them. This is the list that came up for them. So this notion of issues related to sustainability, again, is moving into the center and to core of a business issue. Climate change being at the top, malnutrition, wealth disparity or income inequality, population migrations driven by a number of different factors, including climate change, but also short-termism. And I think that's one of the things that we see around the world that is exciting me, is that there is more of a recognition that short-termism is creating problems for us that we are now having to respond to. We've been at this whole conversation about the opportunity for environmental and social benefit to be delivering social value, or to be delivering business value now for over a decade. We launched in 2006, and through this last 12, 13 years, what we have seen is that this whole notion of sustainability is no longer a sideline issue. It is actually moving into the core of the business. And it's not just something that's being forced on companies by regulation. We are actually beginning to see hints of a race to the top. And I think companies like Unilever and their constituent parts, like Seventh Generation, who we're going to hear from next, have been real leaders in driving this change. There's many reasons for this shift. One is just that CEOs are aware now that there's significant market opportunity by responding to the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals, how many people are aware of the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Okay, so this is something else you want to pay attention to. There's a huge movement now towards the 17 environmental and social issues that 193 countries around the world have signed on to working towards to help us get to a sustainable future collectively as a world. And those goals are creating market opportunity that lead to business growth and jobs, which is exciting. And as I mentioned, brands are succeeding. We're seeing this not only through Unilever, but it's very, I'm proud to tee up Joey and say that 60% of Unilever's businesses that have a sustainable purpose embedded into the core of the brands are 60% of the growth of the company is coming from those brands that have sustainability embedded in the core, and that those brands are growing faster than the rest of their portfolio. I can tell you that that is sparking activity from competitors. I'm very proud to be working with Procter & Gamble and serving on their External Sustainability Advisory Council, and they've done an exceptional job at reducing environmental impact and many social issues, but they are now emboldened by the fact that Unilever is seeing so much growth coming from this aspect of their business that they are also beginning to look at ways to very aggressively embed social and environmental purpose into their brands at the brand level. So you'll see great things coming out of them, and that is great for all of us. The other thing is just that consumer aspirations are changing. And, you know, there's a lot contributing to that. I think climate change is being felt worldwide. And one of the things that I enjoy, I have the opportunity to travel around the world, and I enjoy talking to taxi cab drivers, because they are a really interesting kind of drumbeat of what's happening around the world. And I will say that I can go, whether I'm in Kuala Lumpur or South Africa or in Rio or in Buenos Aires or in Bangkok, I hear people recognizing the impacts of climate change on their local region. I don't even have to prompt it. It's interesting to see people talking about strange weather. Many of you, I'm sure most of you are conscious of what's happening with the travesty of plastics working their way into our oceans, and plastics showing up in our food, and the statistics that say that there may one day, in the not too distant future, be more plastics in the ocean that there is actual fish, which is concerning. In one generation, this is a troubling statistic, we have worldwide now more obese malnutrition people in the world than we have underweight malnutrition people. And that's pretty staggering. And it's come as a function of unintended consequence, actually, by companies, and I won't name, but working to help create social benefit by providing a way for disenfranchised parts of the population to sell product into, for example, the favelas in Brazil, where there's door-to-door sales going on of products that maybe have a heavy-duty sugar component, that are creating economic benefit for a category of people that don't typically have access to an economic opportunity, but at the same time are creating an unhealthy environment for the constituents that they're selling to. So unintended consequences, a lot of that going on, and I think the thing that has come to mind for us is that this whole blind pursuit of the good life that we set up for ourselves in the last 100 years, which is go out and pursue a career, make more money, climb the ladder, you know, has turned out to be maybe not all it was cracked up to be. And we are starting to come to really recognize that this pursuit has left us in many cases worn out and feeling disconnected and feeling hollow and in some cases hopeless. You know, people are coming to the place of saying, what's it all about? Is it really all about just the pursuit of profit or not? We actually had such a sense that this awareness and consciousness was mainstreaming that we last year set out on a 3-year an initiative to research this question. Is this awareness that the good life that we have been pursuing, the American dream that we've been pursuing for the last 100 years, actually the good life or not? And what we found is that actually this is not a small category of people out here that are opting out of the good life of the 20th century. It's actually quite a significant and mainstreaming part of the population here in the US. 71% of the people that we polled acknowledge that their vision of the good life is very different than their parents. 78% of them say that money does not buy happiness. 76 agree that this excites me, that living the good life requires making a difference for others. You know, we on some level understand that. In a personal level, we're now coming to the place where we want to bring that into our work life. We don't want to leave our personal self at the door when we check into work every day, right? We all acknowledge, and this is exciting in the context that we live in today, where the media wants to present us as very divisive as a country, but 83% of people said that not everyone has the same access to the good life here in the US, and 72% of them, and this is across geographic regions, it's across religious, faith-based categories, across political affiliations, agree that if more people had access to the good life, there would be a lot less conflict. And 89% said if we just understood each other better, we'd all live a better life. Doesn't that feel encouraging to you? And isn't that odd that this is the reality if you take the sort of kind of biased perspective out of the mix and just ask people what they really care about? Here's what we came up with as the things that are really mattering to consumers today. And this is important for business because as consumer sentiment changes, it creates a new opportunity and mandate for business to think about what it is they're delivering and how they talk about what they're delivering. 36% of the US population are really looking for a balanced, simple life. You know, we live in a time when we are bombarded by information all day, every day, demands coming at us everywhere, complex problems sitting in our lap that we weren't aware of 10 years ago. And we're all tired. It's one of the things that came up at the CEO summit that I was at two weeks ago in DC is this notion of change fatigue. And interestingly, it didn't matter whether you were CEO of a global company or you were an independent entrepreneur that was trying to drive disruption, or an NGO, somebody sitting inside an NGO. Across the board, everybody was having a very similar experience of what we're all going through. We were overwhelmed by complexity, we're tired of the pace of change, and we are longing for opportunities to get back to simple, balanced living. Meaningful connections is the other thing, and that is 28% of people were really in pursuit of that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Financial independence is still something of interest, but again, it's gone down the ladder in terms of priority. Personal achievement, this notion of being the best, all the way down to 10%, where 20 years ago or so we would see that these numbers flipped on their head. Diving in a little bit more to the balanced simplicity, people are looking for clean food, clean ingredients, simple ingredients. They're looking for time, opportunity to just be quiet and still. They're looking for spaces that are simple and decluttered. In terms of meaningful connections, people are looking for connections to their families, time to spend with families, to their communities, opportunities to participate in something meaningful with their communities, and to the environment. We held a corporate member meeting of ours, excuse me, boy, this is sensitive, at REI, who I bet all of you know REI, yes? Yes? Okay, good. We love them. We had a chance to pull our corporate members together at the REI headquarters in Seattle last month, and they shared some statistics about the history over centuries of our relationship to the environment. And they pointed out, and maybe David can remember the stats, or no, you weren't there. The fact that we spend something like 70 years of our life collectively inside now and away from being outdoors. And somehow or another, that is disconnecting us from the sense of life and connection to life in general. And this is a problem. It's also an opportunity, and that's another thing that I really love about what's going on in the world right now, which is that people are starting to recognize that challenges create opportunities, and our requirement is to just flip the bit, as they say in the technology industry, and start thinking about how can we turn all the challenges that we're facing into business opportunity and innovation. And so with that, I can say that there are many, many opportunities we're seeing and examples of opportunities we're seeing in our community, which is now, by the way, a million people strong globally. For those of you who don't know, we do deal with companies that range all the way from the Unilevers and Procters & Gambles and the Fords and the BASFs and the Dows and the Disneys and the Hershey's and the Mars and the Targets and the pretty much everybody that you can think of Gap and Levi's, but also down to the smaller folks. And the innovation that's going on in this microcosm of companies that we work with is spectacular. So clean ingredients is, again, one of the things that we're seeing a trend around. Unilever purchasing 7th generation, how many years ago was that, 10? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Why do I think it's just... Ben & Jerry's, okay, yeah, sorry. But that's a trend that's happening now, and you're seeing it more and more. SC Johnson just bought Method last year, I believe it was also, right? And some of you may have seen Danone, the European company, just buying White Wave here in the U.S. Pursuit of those companies, those pure play, pure purpose companies, is accelerating, and a lot of that has to do with being able to take advantage of market share that's coming from those companies who've been on trend earlier than the big global companies have been able to be. So I'm excited to hear from Joey about how his experience has unfolded in that with the Unilever acquisition. Another thing is the importance of making it easy and healthy. Amazon buying Whole Foods was a move towards expanding the reach of availability of clean and healthy food to more of our population. There's a big trend and movement in the Bay Area. I don't know how far it's reaching out here towards food delivery. So being able to call people up and have your packaged food or pre-prepared food delivered, or boxes of food with menus delivered to your home with a focus on healthy and fresh ingredients. Apps all over the place that help you take time out, generate mindfulness and presence, reduce your stress, get into a healthier headspace, all creating business opportunity. This notion of selling access rather than ownership, how many of you are paying attention to the shareable economy, collaborative economy? Okay, lots going on in that space, obviously, and very much encourage that as a business model innovation to consider. This notion of help me declutter, which is really an indication of the circular economy that's also taking shape. Marks and Spencer's in the UK has for quite some time been thinking about how they can innovate around getting their clothing back. The whole notion of swapping. How many of you have seen that case study where, yes, they're getting people back into their stores, getting people to come in and trade clothing around with each other, home swapping parties. Savers, which is a Goodwill, and Goodwill are two organizations that are thriving as they think about how they can pay attention to the opportunity for getting things back and getting them back into circulation rather than throwing them away. In terms of meaningful connections, there are lots of things going on in that space too. I think the whole notion of being social and getting social through social media is great. I think, there's a lot of discussion out there right now about the negative implications of us being online. Facebook, challenges, acknowledging that we've all become addicted to our cell phones and what is the meaning of that. However, there's also opportunity for creating connections and tribes, and I think Ben & Jerry's is another example of a Unilever brand that does a fantastic job of creating tribes through encouraging activism of their consumer base. Creating space. One of the other trends in retail is the need to move from products to experience, getting people into stores. Starbucks, as you know, exploded by having a simple idea of creating the third space where people could come and be outside of their homes and connect maybe serendipitously with people or meet up with people. But that is exemplified in many other retailers these days. Companies like REI have done an exceptional job of adding new revenue streams to their business around experiential tours and classes around things. Lululemon has welcomed people into their stores by hosting yoga classes and running groups and other things. So that's a great way to build connections with your customers. getting people outside. I hate to keep mentioning REI, but how many of you saw their Opt Outside campaign? I mean, this is an absolutely spectacular example of a bold experiment. What retailer would decide to shut down their stores on what has traditionally been the biggest revenue generating day of their year? And yet they have experienced remarkable uptick in membership and engagement and brand love as a function of taking that bold move. Leveraging big data. We work with a lot of telecommunications companies and companies that range from companies like obviously Google and IBM to the telco companies, Telefonica and Orange and Planet Labs, all of whom have access to extensive amounts of data, and they're looking at ways that they can take that data and create ways for us to understand that data and make it meaningful to us, so we can actually see what's happening around the world as it relates to deforestation or any number of other things. So, in summary, the notion of purpose and being a meaningful business continues to stand up as one of the things that leads to success in business. Find yours. Now's the time. Sustainability is the purpose of the century, environmental and social purpose. And when we think of sustainability, it is the intersection of economic, environmental, and social. It's not possible from our standpoint to disconnect those things. And consumers do care what you think, but they don't really see you acting to do anything about it. And one of the other things that came up in our study is, while they think that you care about them, if you ask them what businesses should do differently to help enable the good life they're really wanting, they don't know. And one of the things that we are trying to help businesses overcome is this notion that we have to wait for consumers to tell us what to do. Because the reality is, consumers get that there's something awry and amiss, but they don't really know how to go about changing lives for themselves or how to get you to do something different to help them. So it's time for business to go out and be bold and lead for the win. This movement is accelerating, and the growth of this event is one example of that. We have gone from a little 225-person conference in 2007 to, again, operating conferences that we had 2,200 people here in Detroit. We're reaching thousands and thousands of people on every continent. So it's an accelerating movement, and if you don't get in now and take a lead, you'll be a follower, and that's a much harder place to be. So I encourage you to really take what you're learning here and go back and do something really meaningful with your business. And I look forward to being in conversation with you about that. Thank you very much.
Wait, you gotta take this with you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Koann. That was great. I really found that helpful because I am one who feels overwhelmed, and to hear that companies are actually taking the lead and helping us figure out how to have that simpler life, how to have that, make the positive change is really inspiring. We're next going to cover mission, and this has to do with, it can be not necessarily easy, but companies develop a mission. But the real challenge is, how do you make it infused throughout your whole company? That's the real challenge. And we're going to have a speaker here, Joey Bergstein, from the CEO of Seventh Generation, talk to us about how to do that. So, Joey. You need the clicker?
Am I supposed to do this?
Here. Click right there from there you go.
Nope. Just give me 1 second. Here we are. Somebody else is clicking. There we go. All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. So I'm going to start with a little story. About 2 or 3 years ago, I had just finished a sales call in New Jersey. It was a great call. Unfortunately, that business is now bankrupt, but that's a totally different story. And I had to get into a meeting in New York City. And so I hopped into an Uber. Today would be a Lyft, but then it was an Uber. And I had to return a phone call from our creative agency who had just presented yet another round of very expensive work that really totally missed the mark. And the feedback was something like this: you're just not getting us. We are so much more than eco-friendly household and personal care products. We believe in sustainability, so we source our ingredients from plants and not petroleum. We believe in zero waste, so it's not good enough that our products, our packaging is recyclable, but we make all of our packaging from recycled material. We believe that you can make, with the right bioscience, products that work as well as big conventional brands, yet are safe for people and planet. We believe in radical transparency because people have a right to know what goes into the products that they use in and around their family every single day. And that our secret ingredient is, in fact, that we have no secret ingredients. And then in the workplace, we believe in equity, we believe in zero tolerance because we want everybody to live up to their truest potential. We believe that you can't live a healthy life on a sick planet, and that business must absolutely do more than just try to sell more stuff to more people more often. That business can be a force for good if they think beyond profit to also people and planets. And so my rant, my Canadian rant, if you haven't picked up my accent yet, went on and on and on, and I get to where I'm going in New York, and I'm about to get out of the Uber, and the driver says, wait. And I said, what? He said, you got to tell me what company you're talking about because I am totally sold. And I start with that story because this is all about how you weave your mission into every single thing you do. And what we found is when you do it, it's magnetic. It's magnetic inside the company, it's magnetic outside the company. So I want to hit on 3 specific points about how we go about weaving our mission into everything we do. It's about our craft, our community, our chaos. And frankly, these are things I learned from our founders. So on the left is Jeffrey Hollander. He now runs a sustainable condom business with his daughter, which is interesting. And Alan is in the shopping cart. Alan, after 7th generation, went on to found a really cool beer company. He's now investing in cricket farms. He thinks that's the next protein. So these are pretty interesting characters who started the business with a really clear vision of what they're trying to create. And I feel totally honored to have the ability or to be in a position to be able to try to take their vision and turn it into a global reality. They actually liked each other, I think, at that point. But that's also another story. So those are the 3 things I wanted to talk about. But I'll start by just sharing a little bit more about our mission, because I'm assuming, how many people have heard of 7th generation? I'll ask that question. Okay, so there's a few of you. That's great. Awesome. So I'll start with our name, because actually even people who know the company often don't know where we take our name from. And the name comes from the great law of the Iroquois, that in our every deliberation, we must take into consideration the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. And that is a really big statement, and it drives every single choice that we make. Really, every choice that we make. And we translate that promise, if you will. Oops, we went too far. Try that again. We translate that promise into a mission statement, which isn't coming up on the screen. All right, we lost our mission statement. Anyway, I know it, because I wrote it. We translate that promise into a mission, which is around transforming the world into a healthier, more sustainable, and more equitable place for all. And the healthier and more sustainable is probably not a surprise for anybody. We really try to do more than just sell green cleaning products. We're really trying to change the way the business is done. And one of the exciting things, as Koann was saying, we were acquired by Unilever about 1.5 years ago. And being part of Unilever has created this incredible opportunity for us to take this mission and turn it into a global reality, to go from impacting millions of people in the US to billions of people around the world. So we're unbelievably excited about that opportunity. And then the last part is about making it a more equitable place for everybody. And we've got this incredible paradox that we're dealing with ourselves, which is we try to create healthier products. And the truth is that the people who need the greatest access to healthier products are the least able to afford them. And so what we're really trying to do is also democratize green so that everybody who needs these products are able to get access to those products. And that's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that we're really determined to do as we change the world. So I'll talk a little bit about how we bring that mission to life in our craft. What you see here is our product design philosophy. Like every packaged goods company, we try to balance two of the things on the screen, which is cost and performance. We want to make products that work for people, that get the stains out of their clothes, that gets their dishes clean, and do so at a cost that's affordable, that is reasonable for them, and that enables us as a company to earn a margin because we've got salaries to pay, of course. But we do something a little bit different, which is we apply what we call the precautionary principle. We won't use an ingredient that we don't know to be safe for people and for planet. So everything we do, we take into account the impact on human and environmental health. And that's really, from a product standpoint, what makes us very unique. And so, how do we take that philosophy into creating products? And this is a picture of a product that we launched just under a year ago, actually, our 100% Botanical essential oil disinfecting spray. So it kills 99.99% of cold and flu viruses, just like you would want, but yet it doesn't contain propane or butane. So unfortunately, if you're a kid and you like doing the blowtorch experiment inside another leading brand of aerosol disinfecting sprays, it doesn't work on ours. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that if you replace this with the conventional, each can is the equivalent of taking the VOCs out of our atmosphere. They're equivalent to 140 cars every single year. So really meaningful difference, we think. And what we did is when we think about our mission, we say, okay, well, where can we actually make a meaningful difference? Where are there products in the marketplace where the alternative just isn't that great, where we think we could bring and make a material difference? And this is a place where we're seeing that we're able to make a really meaningful difference, and it has been an incredible launch for us. It also tells us what we don't do. And a few years ago, the world of laundry detergent has been reshaped with the introduction of these packs. And unfortunately, the CDC reports that tens of thousands of people have actually been poisoned by these packs, mostly kids and elderly people, who mistake them for candy. This is a picture from a Consumer Reports piece that they did on it, where they actually won't even rate them anymore because they don't think that they're safe. But we were looking at what's going on in the marketplace, and from a consumer standpoint, these are more convenient, right? You take a little pack and you toss it into the laundry machine, and boom, that's so much easier than the measuring and pouring, and that's a real pain. So we said, well, we have to play here because it's a convenience that people want. So we sent our R&D team out to go figure out how do you create a safe laundry pack, because we know that statement on is on the front of every bottle that we sell, and we know it has to be safe for people and for planet. They worked on it for a year. And they developed a laundry pack that we knew from all of the math and the science was 100% bio-based and would be non-toxic. But what we couldn't be 100% sure of is what happens when these different ingredients interact and create would they create the central nervous system shutdown that we were seeing in the conventional products. And of course, we don't test on people, we don't test on animals. So we actually said, stop, and we stopped the program altogether. It was really painful. I mean, a year in a small company of an R&D team working on a project just to say, we're just not going to do it, is a huge move. So, well, thank you. It was a tough choice, I have to tell you that. So what we do? We sent them back and we created a powder pack. So it delivers the same convenience. It's not exactly the format that people love. People, for whatever reason, love the liquid. Well, we made a powder version, and we knew with 100% certainty that the powder version would not be toxic, that there is no way that a child could be killed if they were to try to bite into one of these packs. It just doesn't work. And so we launched that instead. So again, I'll come back to the mission. For me, mission is really all about choices, right? It helps you identify what will you do and what don't you do. And the question I put for you is, what choices does the mission in your business determine that you will make, and what choices will you not make? So that's about craft. The second piece was all around community. And by community, I mean our team, our culture, all of the people who live and breathe inside Seventh Generation. And there's a couple things on the screen that I just wanted to talk to. First of all, in the background, you see a picture of our whole company. It's 150 of us at our last advance. So most people do retreats. We don't like to go backwards. We want to go forward. So we do an advance every year. And at that advance, we talk about our mission. We talk about what is it, the change that we're trying to create in the world. And we also reconnected with the values. I mean, everybody, I assume, works in a business that has articulated values, as do we. I'm not going to take you through our values. But what we did last year was quite special because we were about a year into our integration with Unilever, and people were concerned about whether or not we would actually stay true to our mission and stay true to our values. And so we took a whole day just to talk about our mission. We brought in people who have worked with us before and now to talk about their perspective of the change that we create in the world, and really worked hard to reconnect our employees with our mission. We then actually said to our employees, look, these values have served us really well for a long time, but are they right as we go into a new world, as we globalize, and as we work in a world that's quite agile today? And we sent everybody out in groups to go take a look at the values, and we said, feel free to tear it up and redefine it. Or free to rewrite what those values really mean to each of us. And it was a phenomenal day. Everybody came back and reaffirmed that, nope, those are the right values. That's who we are. And we, in fact, closed the loop in the spring where we had an individual who had won a values award, which I'll talk about in a second, share with them how they're seeing that value show up in the business. It was an incredible moment for the community just to be reminded about how our values show up inside the community. So twice in the year, right? The thing that we do that's really important about these values too that I want to say is that employees nominate their peers for a values award every year. And we will typically get about 50 nominations for each of the 5 different values awards. We'll pick 5 people who best exemplify or one person for each of the 5 values. And those people will win $1,000 of cash, which is nice for them, $1,000 that they can donate to a charity of their choice. And then they sit on our foundation giving committee to be able to direct where the company giving goes, which is, for a lot of people, a really meaningful thing for them to do. So the values are really living and breathing. They're not something that just sit on the wall, although we do have them sitting on the wall with the award winners' names on them. And then we go further, and we really try to weave it into our DNA. And I want to talk a little bit about how we actually weave it into our incentive system. Because for me, one of the most important things is when you put your commitment into your incentive system, and you actually say, we're going to pay people to do this work in the way we want to get it done. So our bonus as a company, 20% of our bonus is driven by our sustainability goals. So we've got very clear goals to go to 2025. They are completely outrageous. I have no idea how we're going to get them, but we have a roadmap year after year, but how we're going to get after every single one of those. And that roadmap becomes the metric for the sustainability part of our bonus. So 20% of the bonus is driven by that. I'll give you a great example. Last year, there's 4 metrics that go into the 20% component. One of them was to move a state, a retailer, and a major CPG company on ingredient transparency, which we believe is actually incredibly important. And so I have to tell you, when we were setting the goal, I was really nervous. Like, how the hell are we going to be able to do all of that? I mean, we've got a strong point of view, but that kind of movement feels like it's almost impossible. We're setting ourselves up for failure. And so we backed the goal, and we said, okay, well, one of the 3 would get us to a meets, and if we got all of the 3, that counts as an exceeds. And we got all 3. Which was absolutely incredible. And I can tell you that if we didn't put these goals into our incentive system, it would be really easy to decide not to pursue every single thing that we want to pursue. And as much as a company that's founded on its mission you would think would naturally do these things, it's not always 100% obvious. People need to take home a paycheck and pay their families. But this really helps set the tone for what it is we're going to do and what we're not going to do. The other couple of things I'll mention on here is there's a gateway to the bonus. So every employee has to do 20 hours of volunteer time. So they can volunteer wherever they want, but they have to do 20 hours of volunteer time. We allow employees to take 3 business days to volunteer. So, you know, it's a very easy thing for people to do, but that you have to do that to get your bonus. And then you also have to participate in the thing up there called LEAD, which stands for Learn, Engage, Act, and Do. And LEAD really is an opportunity for us to take an issue or two every single year and create programming. And this is all by employees for employees. But we take an issue, we create programming around it to help educate people about issues we're concerned about, and let them engage in them and then actually take some action. So last year we had a very big focus on ingredient transparency and on inclusion, which I'll talk about in a second. This year we're very focused on climate justice, and we'll bring in a series of speakers and hold a series of events that are around that. And that becomes a critical part of getting your bonus. So some examples there. You know, and then how do you continue to connect the community? And for us, we think about our community as the team, as well as all of the people that we interact with beyond just the doors of 7th Gen. And from a team standpoint, one of the things we've been really focused on, I'll go back to the mission statement around equity, is how do we create a really equitable workplace? And it's been really interesting for us. A few years ago, we realized through our annual employee surveys that women actually weren't having as great an experience in 7th Gen as men were. And we thought that was really strange and just absolutely not okay. And as we dug into it, we learned a lot. We looked at, you know, how are we composed? So as a company, we're 60-40 female-male. Our management team is reversed. So our managers and above were 40-60 female-male. And our leadership team at the time was about 25-75 female-male. And so over the last year, we said, you know, this isn't okay. We've got to address it. We're going to start by the composition of the business. And one of the things we were able to do is as we transitioned the business into our new reality with Unilever is we completely changed our leadership team, and we're now 50-50. We also, we're a relatively fast-growing company, and we're constantly recruiting. We said we can get the right composition at Manager Plus. We're now 50-50. And we've got a whole series of 4 or 5 different, the metrics are one thing, but the culture is the other thing. And we have a whole series of initiatives that are focused on really how do we ensure that people have the ability to succeed regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of sexual orientation. And taking action and really being transparent with our employees has been a critical part of doing that. But beyond employees, it's about the community that we engage with. We do a lot of work with the local community in Vermont, with retailers. We have a tremendous partnership with Target. Target actually credited 7th Generation for helping them take a big stance on ingredient disclosure. They took a huge stance last year, and we were right there in their press release, which we thought was really cool. And then with suppliers, we think that we are all in this together. We have a very extensive supplier base. And I think the reason why some of the biggest manufacturers in the world want to work with companies like 7th Generation is because we help move them along the sustainability path. And this is a place where everybody wants to play. We had a supplier summit about a month ago where we brought our top 10 suppliers in to only talk about how do we collectively move along that sustainability agenda. And a decade ago was the last time we had a supplier summit. And the person who makes our baby wipes came totally inspired, walked away, and actually set up their own sustainability group. And they are now a serious leader in that space, in that industry. So we really do believe that our job is to infect everybody as much as we can. And in fact, we talk a lot about infecting the host at Unilever as well. So, my provocation for all of you is we all have value statements, we all have missions. They're sitting somewhere either on a piece of paper or they're on a wall, but how do you take it off the wall and bring it into your business every single day? So the last piece was around chaos. Now, I recognize that our business is really about challenging the big conventional brands, and that there's a huge representation of people in different kinds of business. So everybody's mission is not about creating chaos. Everybody has a mission that's about the change they're trying to create. The question here is, how do you bring that to life in the marketplace in your own way. And for us, it's about how do we create chaos? How do we get people to think differently about the choices they're making so that they can make what we think are better choices, frankly. So that's Jeffrey getting arrested as he was taking a stance against the Bush administration on climate. He thought they were going the wrong way. He looks actually pretty happy, I think, because of all the press coverage. But chaos is in the genes, I would say. But it delivers. And one of the things that I'm often asked is, this mission stuff is really good, but like, do people really care, and does it move your business? So I share this story because I think it's a great example of how we do it and also what it does for us. And so 2014, rewind the clock, we felt really strongly that the country needed to move forward on toxic chemical safety. The last time that the regulations around toxic chemical safety had been touched was 1976. And since that time, over 80,000 new chemicals have been created and introduced into the US marketplace. Less than 200 had been tested for human or environmental safety. I mean, just think about it, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. So we live in a world of total self-regulation, and that's okay when it works really well, and it's moderated by class action lawsuits, so it's really painful when it doesn't work very well. But we said that's not good enough. We want to see everybody being held to the same standard that I described around our precautionary principle. So we had this interesting insight that the Obama administration had made a pledge that they would respond to any petition with over 100,000 signatures of it that had been raised over 30 days. So we said, okay, well, let's do that. And so the ad that you see up there on the left was launched in the New York Times on March the 23rd, 2014. 30 days before Earth Day. I remember the day because it was my dad's birthday. And our goal was to raise awareness of the issue and to get over 100,000 signatures on a petition. We got about 120,000 signatures. And in and around Earth Day, we took these little toxin freedom fighters with us to the halls of Congress. We had over a dozen meetings with different members of Congress. And it took some time. About 2 years later, we saw new toxic chemical safety reform laws being passed, which we were super excited about. They're not perfect, but they're a lot better than the ones from 1976. But one of the most interesting things is not the fact that we spend a lot of time just trying to change the way business is done, but when we run a really sophisticated market mix model. So this is a multivariate analysis that looks at all of the marketing activity you do week by week, zip code by zip code, and your sales week by week, zip code by zip code over the course of the year, and then tries to help you identify what gives you a return and what doesn't. So that one ad ran on my dad's birthday in 2014, delivered more business than all of the coupons, and we sent a lot of coupons out that year, than all of the coupons that we had done that year, right? So if you have a question in your mind about whether this delivers, we're very convinced that taking stands like that are good for the industry and they're good for business. And this is probably the other piece of proof positive. So this is the trajectory of our home care business. I'm not sure why we didn't include personal care. It would look the same. So our total business has had a healthy growth rate. It's been a 30-year overnight success story. And along the way, we've attracted some attention because you do that, I guess, when you're growing really rapidly. And so that's a trajectory, which looks a lot like a belly flop, of a lot of the greener variants of the big conventional brands. And the good question, I think, is why is that? If there's so many people that are interested in this space, and frankly, 75% of the growth across the entire grocery business, all categories, is coming from natural, better-for-you brands, right? So this is not just a trend. This is a whole new reality, and I think that this is the new mainstream. But historically, the experience has been this, that when you launch a green brand, you actually fail. And I think that the answer for that, the answer to why is because people buy into much more than just the products. They're buying into the companies and who they are and what they stand for. I was speaking at a conference like this about 6 months after I joined Seventh Generation. And at the end, somebody put their hands up and they said, I got to tell you, I love Seventh Generation. I've been using this brand since long before it ever worked. And sadly, it was the case. I mean, Jeffrey used to tell me that people would pay a lot of money to walk around in dirty clothes. Happily, that's no longer the case. Happily, it's no longer the case because we have unbelievable science. I mean, the R&D team we have cut their teeth at P&G and at Clorox and at SC Johnson, and they've taken all of that knowledge, and they said, okay, all we need to do is apply that just with greener chemistry, right? And then we can get to products that work as well as conventionals, yet are safe for people and planet. It's not that difficult, but you have to have an intention around that. Anyways, there's none of that in those green products. They're just green products. There's no heart and soul in them. And so, I feel pretty good. I don't think that's necessarily the future, but that's certainly been the experience in the past, and we can learn from it. So I thought I'd share a little bit about what we're doing right now. And beyond taking these stances, these advocating for change, which we continue to do in a really big way, we're also trying to redefine clean and help people understand that there's a different way to think about clean. The clean shouldn't be the smell of perfume on your clothes 7 days after you've washed it. That babies should smell like babies and not like baby perfume. That true clean is odorless, colorless, and spotless. That it's about your business practices, it's about transparency, it's about how you treat your workers. But we wanted to find a lighthearted way to do that, so we enlisted some help from Maya Rudolph, who's this amazing mother of 4, longtime user of 7th Gen, and we think has found a really approachable way to tell our story. And then we put that together with all of our advocacy efforts, and so far it's working. So I'll share this with you.
What do any of these cuckoo colors have to do with clean? Nothing.
Last year, 7th Generation and Maya Rudolph came together to redefine what clean really means.
Clear as an angel's giggle.
The Come Clean campaign celebrated all of our household and personal care products that are free and clear of artificial fragrances and dyes. This commitment to a real clean separates us from the rest of the category. In 2016, we launched the campaign in a big way with TV, digital platforms, and over 4 billion PR impressions. And Maya performed a vijingle about ingredients disclosure in FemCare.
With 7th Generation FemCare, you can keep it free and clear down there.
The vijingle got more than 4.3 million organic views on social. Compared to the previous year, FemCare sales grew by 85%, and home care is growing faster than ever, with liquid laundry sales up by 12.5%. After a complete overhaul of our baby business, we have the fastest growing diaper brand in the US. Overall, we entered 1.3 million new households, with penetration up by 20%. Then, we took our partnership with Maya to the next level and advocated for ingredient disclosure together in DC. Our advocacy work has resulted in legislative progress in California and New York, with major retail brands like Target and CVS committing to ingredients transparency, along with Reckitt, P&G, and brands in our Unilever family making the same commitment. This momentum continued into 2017 with first quarter consumption and sales up over 20%. And we're gearing up for the launch of our non-flammable disinfecting spray in Q4. Our partnership with Maya is still going strong, and 2018 will be the year of laundry, featuring a new spot about our range of laundry products. We'll have a further 50% increase in media spend to help our message reach even more consumers. The future of 7th Generation is bright, and we won't stop until every family, every home, and the whole industry comes clean.
Hashtag come clean.
So, thanks. So that's working for us as well. Again, this is all about how do we bring our story into the marketplace and tell our story so that people get a glimpse of what our mission is all about, because it's not good enough to keep it locked inside a cabinet. And we're asking ourselves what's next. And I talked a little bit before about this paradox we're trying to solve, that the people who actually need clean, green cleaning products are the least able to afford it. So we're working on how do we democratize our business in a powerful way. So stay tuned on that. We don't know the answer, but we do know that it's something that we need to do. So the question here I leave you with is, how does your mission show up in your marketplace? For us, it's about chaos. For you, it's probably not about chaos, but it is about something. So how does the mission show up in the marketplace for you? So those are the three things, how we weave our mission into every single thing we do. It's about the craft, the products we create. It's the community, both inside our business and outside the business, and how we really infect them with our mission and with our values. And it's about how we show up in the marketplace. Again, for us, it's about chaos. And if I can leave you with a thought, it's really that there's a ton of momentum right now, as Koann said, absolutely, in this space. The question is, how do you go beyond marketing, schmarketing, and really weave it deeply into your business? Because the truth today is that people are interested in this because of the level of transparency that we have. And so if it's not deeply wound into your business, everybody's going to know it really quickly. And so it's got to be woven into the business for it to be absolutely real. And so my hope and my intent today is hopefully to share a few different ideas, and I hope everybody walks away with just at least one thought about how do you go one step deeper in weaving mission into every single thing that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is everyone ready for a break? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to have refreshments out here. Come back. The next session is in here, and be back by 11 prompt. Okay, go enjoy.